Leaders who demonstrated finesse were able to handle tricky situations no matter what they were. These situations ranged from navigating office politics to diffusing heated conflict to speaking truth to power. With the help of finesse, these leaders also created work environments where employees flourished.
Welcome to the Inside Forbes Councils podcast. Each episode shares transformative insights and advice from members of Forbes Councils, a group of invitation-only communities for successful executives and entrepreneurs. This is Inside Forbes Councils.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Inside Forbes Councils podcast. I'm your producer, Stephen Ganoza. When it comes to leadership, what is finesse and why does it matter? To answer these questions, today we are talking with Dr. Ryan Lahti, the founder and managing principal of OrgLeader. He is also the author of The Finesse Factor, How to Build Exceptional Leaders in STEM Organizations. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you for having me on the podcast.
To start off, could you briefly describe your role?
I am the founder and managing principal of OrgLeader, a professional services firm that optimizes STEM organizations. In my role, I serve as a strategic advisor to STEM organizations to enhance their effectiveness. I do this in three ways. First, I identify capability gaps in leaders, executive teams, and the organizations. Second, I close these gaps with solutions to develop the capabilities of leaders, teams, and organizations. Third, I sustain successful results by ensuring the right strategies, structures, and processes are in place.
Can you clarify what you mean exactly by STEM organizations?
STEM organizations are technical and data-driven in nature. While all organizations have these attributes to some degree, STEM organizations rely on them more heavily. They are driven by science, technology, engineering, and math. Let me give you some examples. In the science field, they include medical device, healthcare, and biotech organizations. In the technology arena, software, semiconductor, internet, wireless, and information security companies are examples. In the engineering field, automotive, aerospace, and engineering and construction companies are examples. In the finance arena, they include banks, insurance, and credit companies. In addition to these at the enterprise level, STEM organizations exist at the functional level. Departments such as R&D, IT, finance, and accounting are STEM organizations.
So let me go back to the question from the introduction. When we are talking about leaders, why is finesse so important?
In my work across 20 industries over the last couple decades, I found finesse was crucial for exceptional leadership, especially in STEM organizations. Leaders that demonstrated finesse were much more successful than those who did not. More specifically, these leaders differed in the way they handled tricky situations. Leaders who demonstrated finesse were able to handle tricky situations no matter what they were. These situations ranged from navigating office politics to diffusing heated conflict to speaking truth to power. With the help of finesse, these leaders also created work environments where employees flourished. I don't want to give you the impression the leaders were perfect, because they weren't. Like the rest of us, they occasionally would misstep or make an error. Even when making an error, what differentiated them was how they handled it. They did not make excuses or look for scapegoats. They recognized how they caused or contributed to the error, took responsibility for it, and found a way to rectify the situation. In other words, they owned it and fixed it.
Okay, so it's clear that finesse can make a difference for leaders. Can you give us a little bit more detail about what exactly it is?
The finesse I am referring to is a what and a how. It is what exceptional leaders possess and how they accomplish objectives. Specifically, finesse deals with how people carry themselves, as well as understand, process, and deftly perform in tricky situations. Based on the work I mentioned across industries, along with an analysis of 10 years of leadership assessments, I identified 7 essentials of finesse. I will briefly walk you through them. The first 3 essentials are more intrapersonal in nature. They involve a little more processing on your own. They are also foundational because they enable the other four essentials. Leverage self-awareness is the first essential. When you leverage self-awareness, you understand the strengths and limitations you bring to the table, including how your thoughts and words affect your actions and those around you. In addition to understanding your strengths and limitations, you do something with this information. You act on it. This is what I mean by leverage in leverage self-awareness. By the way, leverage self-awareness is the starting point for building finesse. Read the situation and the stakeholders is a second essential. This involves recognizing the context you walk into and the people that are in it or impacted by it. It includes relating to what others are experiencing and getting a sense of the climate, culture, power, and political behavior in the organization. Anticipate the impact is the third essential. With this capability, you estimate the effect of your words and actions to ensure you use the best approach to get the desired outcome. Keeping your intention top of mind as you do this makes a better outcome more likely. While the first three essentials are more intrapersonal in nature, the remaining four essentials are more interpersonal in nature, which makes them more obvious to others. Convey a measured presence is essential 4. Conveying a measured presence is more than buffing your image or gauging the impression you make on others. It enables you to confidently address what comes your way in a steadfast manner, regardless of circumstance. It involves your appearance, communication style, composure, candor, and conviction. Differ with the issue, not the party, is essential 5. With this capability, you understand disagreement or conflict is a natural part of the work environment. You recognize what makes it good or bad is how the type of conflict is handled. Consequently, you employ approaches to keep conflict in the productive range by focusing more on the underlying issue than the characteristics of the opposition. Be a mirror to help people adjust is essential 6. When you do this, you let people know what is making them successful or unsuccessful so they have the opportunity to improve their performance. Empathetic candor is a key part of how you provide this feedback and guidance. Get things done through others is essential 7. This is not dumping and running or assigning tasks only to take them back later and finish them your way. This essential is about empowering those around you through strategic delegation so you can use your time and energy wisely. This entails holding yourself and others accountable from the handoff to the review of the outcome.
You mentioned that the first 3 essentials are foundational. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
The first 3 essentials work in combination or build on each other to enable essential 4 through 7. For example, conveying a measured presence, essential 4, would involve leveraging self-awareness to gauge your current frame of mind and what strengths and limitations you bring, plus reading the situation and the stakeholders to recognize the context in which you are operating and the players in it, plus anticipating the impact to help you weigh different approaches for the context and players so you can tailor how measured you should be. In some circumstances, you might need to use a velvet glove approach. Some situations might require a steel hand. In other settings, something in between these two would be the optimal strategy.
Have you discovered anything that hinders or that is an obstacle to finesse?
The most common obstacle I have found that gets in the way of finesse or makes it harder for leaders to demonstrate it is something I call the anti-finesse trifecta. This trifecta consists of low self-awareness, high drive for results, and low empathy. When these 3 things show up in a leadership assessment, or I observe signs of them in how a leader interacts with others, I typically see the leader struggle to consistently demonstrate finesse. I find the combination of these 3 attributes associated with anti-finesse behaviors, such as steamrolling, an excessive focus on tasks without considering how best to motivate others to accomplish the tasks, and an over-reliance on a command and control style. One leader comes to mind as I mention this to you. I will refer to him as Scott. By the way, this is not his real name. Scott is a sharp leader with an engineering-related company who gets results. Give him an objective, and he generally will knock it out of the park. If you saw Scott in action, you would see he is a taskmaster. His boss, colleagues, and direct reports would tell you he often steamrolls people as he accomplishes his objectives. If you were to ask Scott how he comes across, he would tell you, I don't know how I come across to others. It doesn't matter. I get things done. If you are a results-oriented person, you might say, who cares what Scott does as long as he executes successfully? Scott would agree with you. Here's the problem. Scott's actions had short and long-term ripple effects that were hurting him, even while they were helping him attain other objectives. Scott did get results, but he alienated people by the way he did it. Here are some of the ripple effects. Scott's colleagues excluded him from critical meetings and initiatives due to his excessively driven style. Even the CEO chose not to consider Scott for a key role.
So whether they're taskmasters like Scott or simply leaders who want to increase their finesse, how do you do it?
When it comes to developing leadership capabilities, many leaders and organizations go astray by focusing too much on building knowledge and too little on building proficiency. If your objective is simply to be able to discuss the 7 essentials of finesse in meetings or at some company function, knowledge is enough. However, if your objective is to be able to successfully use finesse in a variety of situations over time, knowledge is not enough. It is merely the starting point. As I mentioned earlier, finesse is a what and a how. It is what exceptional leaders possess and how they accomplish objectives. So finesse is not just a matter of knowledge, it is a matter of proficiency. When leaders and organizations want to increase finesse capabilities, they will get better results if they take this into account. Here are some high-level steps. Start with understanding the finesse concepts. In other words, the 7 essentials of finesse. Evaluate your initial finesse proficiency to establish a baseline. Decide what you want to improve, then experiment with it in low-risk situations to build on your baseline. Once greater proficiency has been established, use it in higher-risk situations to continue to increase your depth and breadth. As you do these last 2 steps, gauge the quality of performance by obtaining input to further refine it.
What should people do if they want more information about finesse?
Given what I've shared about the importance of finesse, here is my challenge to your audience. Determine your baseline finesse proficiency, then put together an action plan to enhance it. You can get more information about finesse at OrgLeader.com.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights today on finesse in leadership.
Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Well, that's all we've got for today. As always, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.
This has been Inside Forbes Councils. Please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're a member of the Forbes Councils and would like to participate in our podcast series, please email your member concierge. If you're interested in joining a Forbes Council, learn more at ForbesCouncils.com.